Your neighborhood just got cooler with Kroger Delivery's refrigerated trucks. Simply order groceries at the same great prices online as in-store, and we'll bring them to you fresh every time. And if that wasn't cool enough, you can now earn 4 times the fuel points after 4 with your digital coupon. Choose a next-day Kroger Delivery time slot for 4 p.m. or later on Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays. Must deliver by February 4th. Restrictions apply. See Kroger.com for details.
Hey Atlanta, Apple is open for small business. That's right. We're here to make starting and running your business simpler. With privacy and security built in on all devices, it's easy for you to protect your customers' data. And if you need hardware or software support, you'll get advice from business experts at no cost whatsoever. So you can focus more on the soup du jour and less on, the other stuff. At Apple, we're open for your small business. Go to apple.com/small business or visit an Apple store to learn more.
I thought that I had gone through my life without seeing Alec Baldwin naked, but there it is. It's on screen.
Would that kind of be how you'd find out about your friend's affair? Would you sit down and say, hey, I'm having an affair with my ex-husband? Is that true to life?
I can honestly say that I've never heard of any of my friends having an affair. No, not one have ever said to me, I'm having an affair. Well, maybe they are, I don't know, but it was what older middle-aged men look like, frankly. Hope my husband's not listening to this, because he doesn't look like that.
Hello, everybody. Joining Flixwatcher today, we have Michelle.
Hello.
Liz.
Hello.
And as always, Kobe.
Hello.
And we're here to talk about It's Complicated. Thank you, as always, to the mighty people for the mighty, mighty tunes. And thanks to Ben from Rockwood Audio for his awesome editing skills.
Please do remember to write a review and rate us on Apple Podcasts and anywhere you can do where you listen to the podcast, because it really does help us.
And you can join in the conversation with us on Twitter
at FlixWatcherPod and on Instagram
at FlixWatcher. Hello, film fans. Welcome to this episode of Flixwatcher Podcast. Our guests today are Michelle and Liz. Over to you, please, Liz, to say hello to our listeners and tell them a little bit more about who you are.
Well, hello there. Well, I'm Liz, and for many years I ran an aviation and publishing business and events on the side. But now I'm just an event consultant, part-time, and I'm one half of the podcast Two Women Chatting, where we chat and discuss all things related to midlife and being empty nesters. Over to you, Michelle.
Yeah, so hi, I'm Michelle. I'm a voice actor by trade, and I'm the other half of Two Women Chatting with Liz. And we met when I first moved into a house. She lived a couple of houses away. She was the lovely, friendly neighbour. And then we went into lockdown. And so when we could and when social gatherings allowed, we would sit in the garden and chat, and then we would sit on our sofa and chat. From that, we found that we had a lot in common. We were both midlife women. We were both empty nesters, so we're at the same stage of life. And we were looking to find a bit more purpose, trying to maybe step out of our comfort zone a little bit. And although I have done voice acting for many years now, what I haven't done is multi-track or sort of entered the podcast arena. So this was all new to us. But we found that we had so many topics that were interesting, that weren't just about menopause, that weren't just about school. We'd kind of moved on from that. Where's your kid going to school? Where are they going to go to university? And we started talking about all kinds of topics like using CBD for joint ache in midlife and human trafficking.
Does it help?
It does. Do you know what? It helps with a lot of the menopause symptoms too, like anxiety and all those sorts of things. But we just sort of really found ourselves developing this passion project that became bigger and really enjoyable and sometimes scary. And now we're downloaded in 44 countries. We've had thousands of downloads. We have a really good network of listeners who are very loyal to us, and we really, really are very delighted and happy that it's become successful in this way. So we called it Two Women Chatting because we do exactly what it says on the tin.
Who suggested to whom the podcast in the first place? Whose idea was it?
Our kids, actually.
Oh, really?
Yeah. We were actually thinking of doing some kind of event business because I've got a background in marketing and PR, and Liz is obviously with her events experience. It seemed like a perfect mesh of our skill sets. And the more we talked about it, the more we laughed. And the kids, they're all adult kids, they're like, oh my God, you two are just ridiculous. You should just make a podcast out of this. It's funny. It's funny. So we thought we'd take a leap, and we did.
Oh, lovely. Well, I'm glad you're enjoying it.
I was just going to say, it's very inspiring because a lot of people have these ideas and there's always something that putting them off, whether it's the time or they don't think anyone's going to listen to it. So, yeah, great to go with it and give it a go. So well done.
It is a bit of a commitment, I'm not going to lie, especially now we've gone weekly. And, we met Kobe at the Podcast Awards back in May 22.
It's a while ago.
It was a while ago. Yeah. And, lots of podcasts started, didn't they, in COVID times because it was something to do from home. It was sort of easy to start up. And I think, as I said before, it's now like a lot of space litter. There's lots of unended podcasts out there in the ether that sort of had 3, 4, 5, 6 episodes and then just sort of fell away. And I'm kind of proud of us that we've just kept going, to my surprise, because I'm not usually like that. I lose interest.
I think it's like a super small fraction actually gets past like 5 episodes.
I think it's like 13. Yeah. I think like if you get past 12 episodes, then you're in it for the long course.
Oh, Lordy, Liz. Oh, Lordy.
It's all your fault.
Welcome. Well, we're here today to talk about It's Complicated, which is your choice, Michelle. Can you tell us, first of all, why you chose it? And then we'll get the timer for the 1-minute synopsis.
Okay, why I chose it is because it's very relatable. And if anybody knows Nancy Meyers' movies, they're very rom-com. They're kind of formulaic. You know what you're going to get. Sometimes you want that. Sometimes I don't want peril. I don't want to be scared. I don't want to be sad. I want to be happy. And I want sort of a bit of romance, a bit of comedy. So I knew what I was getting. It's not the deepest movie in the world, but it's what I wanted. It was just the mood I was in. I've seen it a number of times. It always makes me laugh.
And the synopsis starts now.
Okay, so as I said, It's Complicated is a Nancy Meyers rom-com. It was released back in 2009. It centres around Jane Adler, who's played by the fabulous Meryl Streep. She's a successful bakery owner. And at their son's college graduation, she finds common ground again and begins an affair with her ex-husband, who's played by Alec Baldwin, 10 years after their divorce. And he's now married to a young, very needy young woman, Agnes, played by Lake Bell, who's got this horrible child son, but she wants more children. So Jane now finds herself in the role of mistress to her ex-husband of 20 years and basically cheating with her ex-husband on the woman who broke up their marriage. So already it's getting complicated, but then she begins to fall for Steve Martin's character, Adam, the architect redesigning her already gorgeous home, and he's really damaged emotionally by his divorce. 60 seconds. Beep, beep, beep.
Very nice.
You can tell she's the voice actress, can't you? A natural.
Already beautiful house. I need to make my house even better. I was like, it looks pretty stunning to me already.
Well, Nancy Meyers she's well known for doing these gorgeous kitchens and sitting rooms that are, right out of Architectural Digest or Homes and Gardens. She's really meticulous about what she puts in them and how they look, to the extent that she's known as a bit of a control freak. So she'll go on set and she'll take books out of the pile or on the bookshelf that she thinks her character wouldn't read. So it's a tiny, tiny detail that most people wouldn't see, but she's really into the minutiae, if you like. And so she's got a bit of a reputation for getting over-involved, and her movies tend to run late and tend to go over budget. But it's all this gorgeous, sumptuous cashmere and gadgets and flora and just like yummy house looking stuff, always with a lovely kitchen island as well.
Oh, I've got kitchen envy, serious kitchen envy on that film.
Yeah.
Well, my favourite Nancy Meyers film isn't her as a director, but it's The Parenthood, and it also contains one of my favourite houses in not Parenthood,
Parent Trap.
Father of the Bride. I know.
Father of the Bride, yes.
Yeah, Father of the Bride. And one of the things I love about the whole kind of set of that is when Steve Martin's describing their house and just saying how perfect it is. It's like, so it's cool in the summer and warm in the winter, and you just set it up as a really nice cozy house, and it's still a big house in itself, and it's really nice and beautiful. But then his daughter's parents-in-law they have an even bigger house, and they're still like, they're envious of what already for them is like, for us looking at them is like a fantastic house. And that's kind of, that kind of sets the stall for Nancy Meyers. And had she directed Father's Bride, I'd be interested to see how she went into that. But it was, that's her style. That's kind of a thing of hers.
And the other thing about Nancy Meyers is that she really celebrates older women in acting roles. So she has her women portrayed as desirable and funny and successful. And I think that's quite a rarity sometimes in Hollywood movies. And that's another reason why I thought that's our listener base. That's the kind of people that would probably watch this movie. And she often uses the motif of divorce, but everybody who's divorced, all these women, they're loved and they're pursued by other men, and they're still seen as sort of romantically interesting. And I think it's just a really nice take. And that was kind of, I think, because Nancy herself went through a divorce, and she kind of puts that empowerment back into women in most of her movies.
Liz, have you seen this before, and what are your thoughts?
Oh, I've seen it before, yeah. I love the film. I have seen it quite a few times. I just like the fact there's no bad person in it. It's just a laugh. It's very easy watching. Yeah, my type of film.
One kind of slight against I had was that this is my first time watching, but Lake Belle's presented as kind of an overbearing, not nasty person, but she comes off as being bad, and then her son Pedro is a bit bratty. And I thought it was potentially a bit unfair for Lake Belle. I don't know. What are your thoughts on that? Anyone?
Well, I don't know. I think she played it well. I mean, I did. And there's a scene in there towards the sort of 2/3 through the movie where he has to go off to the fertility clinic. She's booked him in every other day because she is determined to get that kid. And they pan the room, and it's all older, successful men with these young women, clearly second marriages. And I just thought that was so telling, so LA as well.
Helen, not Lake Belle, it's complicated.
I hadn't seen it before, and I was quite excited. We've had a Nancy Meyers film on before. We've had The Holiday on, and obviously Meryl Streep. I'm a big fan of her. I don't think I was quite prepared for kind of like the off-the-scale wildness. There's quite a lot of crazy stuff that goes on. There's also some like shonky editing as well in it, but the two sync problems, which I thought was funny. There's a whole kind of plot thing around not wanting to have space for two sinks because it makes her sad, not the fact that she's obviously got space for having that. I thought that I had gone through my life without seeing Alec Baldwin naked, but there it is. It's on screen. Interesting to say about Lake Belle. I thought there's a lot of stuff that I liked it, and I do think she does kind of celebrate women, but I found it a little bit sad that they kind of ganged up on the wife, the other woman, especially going through the kind of fertility struggles at the time. So I think that maybe if it was made now, it might not go down that angle. And also, it did slightly annoy me that Meryl Streep had to apologise, but Alec Baldwin didn't do any apologising, whereas he was being basically a sex pest. And she was very firm and like, no, and he kept coming around her house. So it has that kind of male manipulation thing going on, which I think is quite happens in rom-coms, which was a bit of a shame that he didn't get kind of punished for being an unwanted sex pest. But I kind of liked it in the end that she ended up with Steve Martin because he's kind of quite sweet, and he bought her the cinema tickets, and she said she couldn't make it, which was really sweet of him.
There's a certain sort of smugness by Alec Baldwin, isn't there? I mean, he plays it with a twinkle in his eye, but he's very persuasive, trying to make her think, well, of course this is all right. And he laughs. He said, I think this is very French of us, which he kind of explains everything away, that of course it's okay that they have an affair. Of course it's not really, but you're right. She's the only one that shows any kind of guilt for what she's doing to a woman that she doesn't even like.
And what do you make of the rest of the cast, which I thought was quite interesting?
Oh, gosh, I loved it. I loved it. And what an ensemble cast. I love John Krasinski. He's just brilliant. And he played her future son-in-law so well. I thought the scene in the hotel and the Stanhope.
He was too nice, I thought.
He's basically...
I want him as my son-in-law.
Yeah, he's like the perfect son-in-law.
He's the dream.
every mum would want for their daughter.
And he's protective of his fiancée, and he's holding all these secrets. He sees all these shenanigans going on in the Stanhope as, first Jake arrives, and then Jane arrives, and then the doctor's trying to sort out some sort of potential heart attack. And I just think he's got very good comedic acting skills, and I think he can hold it. And like I say, I just enjoyed it. I just like, be my son-in-law, be my son-in-law.
It's got good hair and teeth.
Yeah, good genes there. Good genes.
Everyone had amazing teeth in there.
Yeah, of course they do. Of course, it's LA, isn't it? But one of the other things that I felt was quite relevant to our age group, Liz and me, is the graduation scene. There was 2 of them. The first graduation scene where Luke is coming down the aisle and he's like punching the air, and they look at each other and they think, oh look, we did this together. We may have messed up our marriage, we may be an absolute nightmare at the end of it, but look what we achieved. Look how fab our kid is, that he's now graduated from college. And I thought that was really beautiful, and I'm sure a lot of divorced couples on milestone events like that might come together and try and see the good part that was left over from their marriages, and not just the sad, the bad, messed up part.
Side of things, yeah, absolutely. Liz, anything else you want to say on the cast in general? We talked about John Krasinski, but there's
Zoe Kazan. And
people like Zoe Kazan, yeah.
I'll be honest, I didn't know many of the cast, but again, I'm not... I watch lots of films, but I just watch what I like. But did Nancy Meyers do The Intern as well?
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, it is. So it's the same sort of genre. Yeah, and I just thought, I thought it was good casting. It just epitomises in my mind, and I'm not saying that I've been there, but that sort of moment in time and West Coast. It is West Coast America, isn't it? It was LA, yeah. Just sort of, at that particular time, it was 10 years ago or more. Things have changed.
I thought the scene with all her girlfriends, and Rita Wilson was one of them,
yeah.
And they're all sitting around and they're sort of joking about their lives, and they're so intimate, and it just seems such a supportive network. And then she's so giddy with how events have turned out, and she bakes all these pies and she just wants to share them with her friends. And I kind of like seeing the different reactions from each of the personalities of the women around the table. One was immediately, oh, that's really great, good for you. And the other one's like, I don't think you should have done that, really.
That was the widow.
The widow, yes, yeah. And I just thought that was nicely played. It was a really intimate scene, and again, it's quite sort of sumptuous, very cosy. I wanted to be part of that group. I know I'd have fitted in.
I would have had a large glass of wine, that's why.
Oh, yeah, totally that.
Would that kind of be how you'd find out about your friend's affair? Would you sit down and say, hey, I'm having an affair with my ex-husband? Is that true to life?
I can honestly say that I've never heard of any of my friends having an affair. Not one have ever said to me, I'm having an affair. Well, maybe they are, I don't know, but...
So that's it, wouldn't have been like a Netflix and divorce stories party. You'd hear it on the grapevine kind of thing.
I don't know. I just...
It feels so American, I think, this kind of divorce party, and the more kind of like, whoop, you've had sex with your ex-husband again, you go, girl. If that happened, then like, kind of, I don't know.
I would say...
oh, really? Should you have done that? Is that a wise thing to do? Yeah, I don't know. I feel that the divorce and that kind of whole thing is quite American, and maybe, I don't know, maybe I need to have more divorce parties with my friends and find out.
I think it was more about empowering. I sort of feel like her friends were saying, yeah, you are the one in charge now. You're not indebted to him. You don't have to do this if you don't want to. It's your choice. And it was sort of a sexual freedom that she hadn't had and never did have in their marriage, really, because, as they said, always too tired, or the children were... And all of a sudden, she has this freedom to do what she wants and to eventually find that she's brave enough to show her body again. And I think all of that points to Nancy giving this woman a sense of empowerment. And I kind of like that.
I've met up with some girlfriends last week, and I'm married, happily married, but the conversation of some of my friends who were divorced, it was very, very similar. It was entertaining, I must admit. So I'm not sure if it's just American.
It was more not the divorce side of things. It was more the divulging what she'd.
Oh yeah, that's what. Oh God, yeah. I had it all laid out. It was very entertaining what I was told. Yeah.
Was there bucket wine glasses involved as well?
Possibly. A bat on their side. No, it was interesting. No, what I feel is that it's sort of a little bit of the grass is always greener, or what's on the other side. And I think, having said that, I'm joking about a couple of friends who are divorced. They laugh about it and some of the exploits they get up to, but deep down, I'm not sure they're quite as happy and quite insecure underneath.
Well, I think she was too. I think Jane Adler was. Yeah. She was lonely, and she put a lot of effort into making her bakery a success. But she said, "I've had 10 long years of lonely, and finally, I've stepped into what I want to be, and I'm feeling good about myself and successful, and I don't need a man." Which is why she can choose to have an affair if she wants to, because it's her choice.
I thought it was interesting that her therapist kind of absolved her of the guilt. Which was like, well, interesting. And the person that she's getting together with, and I think this is one of the main members of the cast we haven't really talked about, Steve Martin. In a kind of a strange role for Steve Martin, I thought he'd normally be front and centre of these kind of films. Yeah, so Steve Martin, and also we haven't really talked about Alec Baldwin, who I love from 30 Rock and from Beetlejuice and other things. I think Alec Baldwin's kind of an understated, really fantastic comedic actor. And I think he's fantastic in this, even though he was, as Helen kind of points out, I think on the sex pesty side of things, which probably, the post-Me Too world, we'd probably say, like, guys, can we think of a better way of getting around this? Because he was stalking her and coming to her house and saying, who's that architect? He's all over you kind of thing. I think there'll be a different way of doing that now.
It's definitely a 2009, not a 2019 film, isn't it? Mm. And I kind of liked as well that, yes, we, as Helen said, we did see Alec naked and we all thought we wouldn't have to do that. But he was a slightly overweight man and kind of real looking. He wasn't buff. He wasn't a Liam Hemsworth. He was what older middle-aged men look like, frankly. I hope my husband's not listening to this because he doesn't look like that. Of course, he's very Liam.
And a bit spray-tanned he was, wasn't he? Yeah.
Yeah, and, her embarrassment, actually, having to take off her robe. What middle-aged woman doesn't sort of have some kind of identification with that? And it's a predictable comedy, but it's okay. You know what you're getting into, and I knew that I would end with a smile on my face, and that's what it was all about, really.
Well, Steve Martin, what are your thoughts on him as an actor and in this? And I guess we should talk a bit more about Meryl Streep.
Oh, she's just brilliant. She's just a genius. I don't know how she has that face that becomes everything she ever plays. I mean, from Mamma Mia. What was that one with the nuclear reactor? What was that one? That was way back that she was in that. Do you remember that one?
Oh. Nuclear reactor?
Oh, gosh. So annoying. I can't remember it now.
I remember in Sophie's Choice, which she was absolutely outstanding in. That was a long time ago.
But she plays such different people and she nails it every time.
Had her in Death Becomes Her recently. Well, not recently, a film we've talked about in this podcast. And she's also in Manhattan. Was she one of the characters? Was she? She
is, yeah. She plays his ex-wife. Yeah, I mean...
Yeah, Woody Allen's ex-wife.
She's got range. The girl's got range. Mm. And she's one of those actresses who doesn't appear to have kind of like an expiry, and she seems to be one of the few women who've managed to kind of get roles that have aged with her, because it's quite interesting. So she's 60 in this film. She obviously does come across slightly more probably youthful. Living in LA, you get that tan, but if you kind of think that her age in this is 10 years behind Jennifer Aniston, and if you kind of like look at them, it's quite an interesting sort of comparison in how Meryl's kind of aged and how she's kind of taken her roles with her, whereas Jennifer seems to be kind of stuck in trying to stay 23 all the time. So I'm just having a look now for the nuclear reactor film because I'm intrigued to know, is it a recent one?
Oh no, it's 20 years ago, easily.
Okay, we've also had adaptation on the podcast, which is, again, just...
Silkwood.
Yeah, that's the one.
Yes.
She kind of brings something different to each role, and it's not a surprise really that she's been rewarded so many times with awards for her talents.
Is there anything else you want to say, guys, before we head to the scores?
I would just say that, yeah, I mean, it's not a real movie of depth, but you don't always need a movie of depth. I quite liked the use of music in it as well. I mean, it made me laugh when Alec Baldwin was sort of running from tree to tree, and it's all a bit sort of pantomime-ish in some ways, isn't it? It's a bit, but I just liked everything about it because I thought the ensemble cast was amazing and sets were gorgeous, and it was just a super... Oh, there is one more thing I wanted to mention that nobody else has yet, and that's the food porn. You know, when they're making the chocolate croissant, it's just such sort of a...
What was that machine that kind of had the pastry that kind of...
Was that the pasta machine?
Kind of,
no, it made rolls of dough, didn't it? So that it flattened out the dough so that she could pull it out. But I just thought that was a really well done scene. It's sort of a certain eroticism to it, and two of them sitting, just eating their freshly baked croissants with chocolate dripping. It was yummy, so yummy.
I don't know where you got that from.
I was drooling over it. I thought it was lovely.
Well, they just obviously had the stoner humour and smoked in an unusual way to smoke a joint. But I think that kind of lends to Steve Martin's kind of physical comedy style a bit. So I thought that was quite funny. Turning up at your children's parties stoned is never not going to be funny.
That was such a kind of a, to use a Helen term, a wild scene. I was just like, what's going on here? And then John Krasinski
joins in.
Steve joins in. I was like, what is happening here, guys?
And then naturally you got to go and eat some food that you've just happened to have
eat food
made yourself because she owns this magnificent bakery and she could just turn up and bake some croissants stoned and not have to worry about health and safety.
Yeah, but of all of the things on the menu, there was so much more that was more interesting than a chocolate croissant, wasn't there, really?
Yeah. Well, maybe, they they don't have that all the time. We get them in local supermarket. You unfreeze them and put them in the oven for 10 minutes.
It's not quite so sexy, is it?
No, not at all. Not at all. It reminded me, when I was at university, one of my friends worked at Burger King. And one time, after we left the club or bar, wherever it was, he opened up Burger King and just made food for us for free.
Got exactly like that scene then.
Exactly like that scene. He said, you can't have the chicken stuff because that takes ages to cook, but you can have anything else. I was like, okay, that's fine.
That's quite a transition, isn't it? From a Meryl Streep movie to you having a nibbles in a Burger King after a night out.
He said, that camera there is fake. Don't worry about it. Okay, fine. Cheers, Sean, if that was your real name. Should we head to the scores, guys?
I'm Sam Clements, host of the 90 Minutes or Less Film Festival, another podcast in the Stripped Media family, a podcast that celebrates movies under 90 minutes long. Each episode, I'm joined by a special guest who selects a movie to join our prestigious lineup. Past guests have included fellow Stripped Media family members Martin and Sam from Song by Song, and Kobe from Flixwatcher, and Dave from The Wire Stripped. Search for us now on the app you're currently listening to this podcast, or join us at 90minfilmfest.com.
Welcome to the Flixwatcher scores. They are always out of 5. You may have decimal places if you wish, and we will start with you, please, Michelle, with your recommendability.
Okay, going straight there with a 5 because I loved the movie, loved everything about it. So not much more to explain there. You can tell that I loved it.
Liz?
I'll give it a 4.5. I love it, but perhaps a little bit dated, but great movie.
Helen?
I think having watched it for the first time now, there was a few things that I was a bit like, not too sure about that. And I think it's way longer than it needs to be. I think if it was like a 90-minute one, I think it would be just a bit kind of zappier and a bit tighter. I mean, I don't know what I was expecting, but there was so much stuff that I was just like, what? What is that? What's going on now? I'm not sure I'd be able to recommend it to that many people. So I'm going to go for a solid 3.
I didn't know what I was walking into. I definitely knew of the film. I'd seen the DVD and poster cover and thought rom-coms at this stage weren't that highly regarded. So it was one that passed me by. Is it a rom-com actually? Well, we can discuss that. Carry on. But from the start, I was like, oh, I like the setup here because you thought they were together. And then late Belle comes into it and you're like, oh, actually they're separated, but there's still some kind of kinship. And I hadn't seen that set up before for a film, and I thought it was actually really quite interesting. I didn't believe the relationship between the siblings and the family. I thought that was a bit too close-knit. There's no fighting there. There's everyone's hugging and stuff like that. But I guess there's surrounding a graduation and pre-marriage stuff, so maybe there's a bit of love in the family. But yeah, it was better than I thought it's going to be based on the poster. That's basically what I was going to say. So yeah, 4 for me. Repeat viewing score. Michelle.
Yeah, repeat viewing is going to be a 5 from me because I could watch it 2-3 times a year. And it makes me laugh out loud every time.
Liz.
I think it's a 4 for me. I can watch it again and again, and it is entertaining. And I've got a feeling it's probably because of our age, Michelle.
Yes, it's our age.
Helen.
I'd like to see more of her films because I haven't really seen that many of them outside of The Holiday and some of the ones that she's written, but even then that was a long time since that. So I'm kind of intrigued to see what else she's got, but whether I'll return to this one as much, I put seeing something else by her ahead of this, so a 2.
Actually, it's just been announced, or it was announced this year, that she is writing a new movie. She hasn't done anything, I think, for 6 years. But sometime in 2023, there is a new Nancy Meyers movie coming out. Nothing's been announced about cast or title.
Interesting.
I probably will watch this again, not often, not frequently. But I think like Helen, I do need to watch the rest of her films. I love Baby Boom when I randomly came across it as a film. Again, that was one that she wrote rather than directed. So I think I need to watch more of the ones that she's directed. And interestingly, rom-coms do tend to rank quite highly here. I mean, our highest rated film is When Harry Met Sally, but that's a Stone Cold classic. But we've had also other rom-coms, which are kind of Netflixy ones, which are just easy to recommend and watch. And I think there's a reason for that. Always Be My Maybe, for example, and they're easy just to, if they're half decent, they're kind of easy to watch. And time again. Yeah, but this one too, I reckon. Small screen score. Michelle.
Oh, yeah. I'd give it a 4.5. You don't need a big screen to watch this. You can watch it on your laptop. You could watch it on your TV at home, and it works perfectly well. Don't need a big screen for this one.
Liz?
Yeah, I agree totally. You don't need a big screen. So a 4.5.
Oh, yeah. Did I score it? I think I did. 4.5.
Yeah, you did.
Okay.
You said 4.5, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, other than having that kind of shared experience of watching comedy films, which is always fun in the cinema, I think this is perfect for watching at home, and you could maybe get a few friends round and recreate that experience. So a 5 for small screen.
Yeah, I'm going to go for 4.5 as well. It would have been quite nice to see in the cinema for a collected laugh. Engagement score, Michelle.
Yep, wanted to see it all the way through, even though I knew what was coming. So I'm going to have to give that a 5.
High scoring round there from yourself there, Michelle. Liz.
Oh, I was going to say 5 as well. Changed my mind now. No,
You can be, of course.
Yeah,
Of course.
Yeah, I enjoyed it.
Helen.
I had to watch this in 2 settings, so that obviously affects the engagement. I do think it's a bit long for its concept, so I was kind of waiting to see when she was going to tell Alec Baldwin to do one and hang out more with nice Steve Martin, who was more attentive and less after sex pesting. So
Did I miss something? Did they get together at the end, her and Steve Martin? They just decided to be friends?
Well, there's kind of like, at least they're...
At least he's building her house.
It's implied.
Yeah. And
He came back, didn't he?
Yeah.
He wasn't going to come back to the house, and then she sees him on a rainy day, and that's good luck to start building the renovations. So clearly he's decided that he'll come back into her life. And, you know, he's a nice, sort of damaged, gentle character that you don't think is going to be unkind to her. Or as much as that chemistry between Alec Baldwin and Meryl Streep is brilliant, you could see that her and Steve Martin would just have a more gentle, sweet, kind relationship, I think.
Yeah, and, you know, he's not, like, been a dick about it all. He's like, yep, I did see your ex-husband naked on my laptop and you revealed that you were having an affair where we were sort of seeing each other. But, you know, I'm a nice guy. I'm going to forgive and forget. So they may have just stayed friends, but if so, he would have been a very attentive friend and it would be a nice relationship either way. So a 3.
So what's your score?
3.
I'm going to go for a bit higher than 3 just because it's my first time viewing it. I think if I watched it in subsequent ones, I'd be paying less attention because I think you can kind of let things just kind of linger in the background, maybe lean in for the kind of funnier bits. So yeah, 3.5. That gives us an overall score of 4.03125. Yeah, everything over 4 is high. I thought it would be quite high, but repeat viewing from myself and Helen is where it's gone down a bit. We need to watch more with Nancy Meyers before coming back to this one potentially. Awesome. Well, Liz, Michelle, thank you so much for joining us on the podcast on Flixwatcher here. You can sign off by saying goodbye to listeners and let everyone know where we can find your podcast and any other things you might have for them to see online.
Yes, so thank you so much for having us. I've had a lovely time. Love reviewing our favourite movies. And we are Two Women Chatting podcast. You can find us on any podcast platform. And you can find us on our website, which is www.twowomenchatting.com, or on our Insta, which is @2womenchatting. Get in the theme here. And on Twitter @chatting2. So we just basically talk about anything, have a good laugh on our sofa, and everyone is welcome.
Lovely. Thanks so much for joining us, guys.
Thanks for coming on.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Enjoyed this episode of Flixwatcher podcast? Why not leave us a 5-star review on iTunes? You can also follow us @FlixWatcherPod on Twitter, and we're @FlixWatcher on Instagram. Thanks as always to the mighty people for their mighty tunes and Rockwood Audio's editing skills. If you're looking to get your podcast edited as sweet as this, get in touch with Rockwood, ROKK Wood Audio. Tell them Flixwatcher sent you.
You just heard a Stripped Media production.